I'm excited for our conversation today and looking forward to your questions and I guess revelations. I was really surprised. I don't know how many of you saw the email that went out yesterday. Hi, Bailey. You guys, my daughter and podcast partner is here, Bailey Carver. How many of you guys received the email yesterday about the first video in the Tiny Step Simplicity series? If you got that, it's going to help. And I also shared it here on Instagram so that you can swipe up and listen to it after this call, because I'm going to review some of the stuff that we talked about there. But the emails that I got yesterday and last night and this morning, there were a lot of pretty amazing breakthroughs, not because of me, but because you guys were asking questions, really smart questions of yourselves. And in many cases, coming up with answers that I don't know if you knew you had. But it was just a great reminder to me that we do have the answers. We know. All we have to do is trust ourselves. The answers are there. So we need to trust ourselves and we need to give ourselves a little time to listen. That's really the big part, is that we struggle to find that time to listen to what we know is true. And so we end up listening to everybody else and what everyone else thinks and what everyone else expects of us or what we think they expect of us. And then we stop listening to ourselves. Has anyone experienced that? I mean, it's not a conscious decision that you decide to stop listening to yourself, but that's what happens. And then it takes some practice to come back to yourself. So what I thought we would do today is go through a little bit of the video and then see if we can have some breakthroughs on the call today. Because there's one thing in particular that I think we get hung up on, and that is our true why, like why we are changing. Hi, Yoga with Allison. You guys, that's my sister, Yoga with Allison. It's a family affair today. I've got my daughter, my sister. Keep it coming. All my great friends. Thanks for showing up, guys. All right, so let's talk first about one thing on the video is that you have the option now on the videos that I send you in this Tiny Step Simplicity series to sit down and watch the entire video. I think the last one was 6 minutes long. Long time for a video these days, I know. But if you don't want to take that time, you can click the search bar in the upper right-hand corner of the video and it will produce transcripts. And you can read through the transcripts, skim to where you want to go. You can also download audio. And that is a new feature that I am offering on all the videos that I share in the Simplicity Space, which is the membership program that I mentioned in the video. We're not going to talk much about that today, but I will tell you about it. I want to talk about how we change the way we change and why that is so important. Because I think a lot of us are always frustrated because we're making the same changes over and over again. And who do we think is the problem for not being able to make those changes? We think it's us. Like it's our fault that we can't make the changes. We don't have willpower. We don't have commitment. We're not strong enough. We're total failures. We just can't do it. We can't change. I disagree. I think the problem is in the way that we are trying to change, and that every time we change, we try to change the same exact way. And the common denominator, of course, it's us, but the other common denominator here is the way we're trying to change. It's not working, but we're not giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt to think it could be anything besides us. So before we go any further, right now, I want to give you permission to let go of any stories that you are telling yourself about your inability to make a big change in your life, no matter what your life circumstances are, no matter how many times you've tried to change before. no matter how many crappy things people have said to you about the changes that you want to make in your life. No matter what, you have permission to let all of that go and start over again. And not do the same thing over again, but change the way you decide to change. Even if you're making the same kind of change, let's change the approach. So the first thing and the very most important thing, and we've talked about this over the years, but maybe not in this way, is why we change. So why do you want to change so much? Why do you want to change this one thing that you've been trying to change over and over again? It could be, once you dig into this, that the reason is someone else's expectation or goal for you. It could be something really superficial that doesn't resonate with you. You might not want to make that change at all, is what I'm saying. However, if you know things have to change in your life, like I knew things had to change in mine, and you ask yourself why you want to change and you can't come up with a concrete answer, it's really easy to say, well, I don't know. I don't know why. And when you say that, when that comes up as kind of the auto response, just take a breath and think about the fact that you do know. You know why. But maybe you're not asking the right questions. So instead of this broad why, in the email that I sent and in the video that I sent yesterday and posted here on Instagram in stories, I asked you 2 questions. And these 2 questions really opened up the room to know your why. And you guys are welcome to answer these as I'm asking right now here for you, for me, and to inspire everybody on this call, because these answers that I'm getting are very inspiring, and they're things that people will say, oh my gosh, me too. I completely relate to that. So you sharing is really an act of service. All right, so number 1, in determining your why, answer this question. What would life look like if you changed the way you changed? Meaning that your changes were more successful. Like, what would life look like? And how would change feel? The thing that I really want as we change the way we change is for change to be less stressful and to be done with more ease. Especially if you're trying to reduce stress in your life. Think about that. That's one thing that we're all trying to do with the changes that we're making. It's in there somewhere. And then we make change super stressful to try to change, to try to have less stress in our life. It makes no sense. And yet we do it all the time. Okay, so we've got freedom from dealing with stuff. Laura says, I would be more relaxed. That's amazing. I mean, that's powerful. Being relaxed. Think about how powerful that would be to be able to make decisions from a place of being relaxed instead of stressed out or on edge. I would be less anxious and stressed. Simplicity. So you kind of get where I'm going with this, and keep your answers coming. Really think about that. And another question, better health. Amazing, which would also lead to less stress. Change would allow me to be confident, leading me to think more clearly and simply enjoy life more. I mean, what else is there, guys? Like, that is it. Sometimes we try to make these things bigger than we think we need to. Make myself a priority. Oh my gosh. Do more for others. Make room and time for art making. Be less fearful. Less reliance on stuff for comfort and peace, more disciplined, less anxious thoughts, more relaxed outlook. I would be more present to now. These are amazing. Simplicity, to be completely comfortable just being me. Don't we deserve that? Don't we deserve being comfortable being ourselves? I could do the things I really want to do. I could be a good example for my children. Easy lifestyle, more compassionate, live longer. Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel really inspired. I know you guys must as well. I think I would enjoy not being constantly reminded that I didn't finish some project and the nagging thoughts of my having wasted time, money, or that I failed. So the next question I want you to layer on here and answer for me is this. How will life be different when you start making room for what matters to you. And I don't mean necessarily room on your countertops or in your drawers, although that could be, but what about room on your calendar, on your to-do list, up here, in here? What about room there? What would life be like if you started making room for what matters to you? Freedom, less stress. I Am Flowing says this, yes, inspiring. This is inspiring. This is what we all want. We want freedom. We want less stress. We want less fear, more health, slower, less stressed, happier, simpler, more creative. Yeah, imagine if your brain was clear enough to be creative. If you had the energy to dig into an artistic project that you really wanted to do, happier, happiness, joy. I'd like to be living, not doing, to do without intention. I missed that, sorry. More fully myself, purpose, easier, less complex, better health, content, more aware of emotions, contentment and peace. I would make beautiful music, a calm source everywhere. This allowed me to start writing my first book. Amazing creativity. It would open up my sometimes stifled creativity. What about decisions? Could we make decisions more clearly and not be so exhausted from the choices that we need to make? Be more present, freedom, calm, independence, happier family, happier me. Reading books. Oh my gosh, I love having time to read books. Sleep. Hello. Step into more of my authentic self, feeling useful, spend time on what matters to me. That's what it's all about. And we forget to give ourselves permission to do these things because we think we're supposed to be adults and that we should be doing all of these other things. But we have room if we are willing to make it. Pursue the things I wanted to be as a child. Time to do self-care and meditate. More organized, less stuff to take care of. I can't stop reading these. They're so great. Like, this is your why, guys. This is your why. And so what I recommended in email to many of you and what I recommend to you guys is that you copy and paste these words that you wrote right here, even if they're not complete sentences, even if the comma isn't in the right place, even if you want to add more stuff, which you certainly can, you write them down on a Post-it or somewhere that you're going to see all the time. If you look at your phone a lot, make it your screenshot. I would put it on a Post-it and put it right on the front of my planner, like the week of the planning that I'm working on. And write those words down, your words. They're the most powerful words there are. I'm sure you resonate with quotes and inspirational sayings on Instagram, but your words are the words that your heart needs. So write them down. Write down the answers to those two questions and have them somewhere you see all the time. So as you're pondering, changing the way you change, embarking on a new change, or creating something different for yourself, you're going to come back to these words. I could be the person I want to be. Room for the other women in my life to be invited in for a place of refuge and peace without my own nervousness filling up the home. Oh my gosh. Yes, write that down. I think you guys should write it down right now. If you have a pen nearby and something like paper, Post-it, anything. Crayon, steal a crayon from your kid and write it down, whatever it takes. Put these words on paper because you're going to forget them. Life's going to get busy. You're going to feel stressful. The news is going to freak you out. Something's going to happen and you're going to forget those words. Write them down because they matter. They matter to you. They matter to the change you're making, which means they matter to everyone around you, right? So do that. And then you know your why. The next way that, and I hate to even leave this topic because I think we could just stay here all day, but I want to talk about the next way it's really important to change the way we change. And that is in the pacing. We have to allow change not to be fast. Why do we insist that we change overnight or over a week or over a month or whatever? Why do we have to have a timeline on changing? Now, I'm a fan of challenges, especially decluttering challenges. Things like the minimalist game, where you get rid of one thing on day 1, 2 things on day 2, 3 things on day 3. I'm also a fan of Project 333, as you know, which is, again, it's timed, it's 90 days. But overall, does it matter to me anymore if the change takes 90 days or 100 days or 30 days or 2 years? Not really. Not really, because when you're focused so much on that, on how long it takes and the end goal, like that, getting to that place, you forget to shift as you are moving along. And if you are working on a change that takes several years, for instance, paying off debt took me years. I had to change as my life changed and as I changed. I had to be able to change my approach or think about different ways to do things. And if I was always focused on, one specific date to finish or one specific way it had to look like, then I would have missed all of the lessons that I learned along the way. And guess what would have happened? I would have gone right back into debt. So I needed the time. I needed the time to let this change happen, to let it marinate, to let it work on me. So I had to work on the change, and the change had to work on me. We need to give ourselves time to learn the lessons that change teaches us, or we're going to change over and over and over again, the same thing. Right? Okay. Do something like put a heart or comment if you have tried fast and furious change before. Like overnight change. And if you have, did it make you feel good? Or did it make you feel stressed? Or did you quit because you were so burnt out trying to be so fast and furious and dedicated and committed and strong? Right? We always try to change with these forceful, powerful words. But what if our change was with ease and it was relaxed and it was supported and we enjoyed the changes we were making? Is it possible that change could be then way more successful? I think so. Yeah, super stressed and disappointed, stressful. All of my life I've pursued overnight change and I'm always burnt out. Temporarily good, then feeling of failure. Leads to burnout, failure, didn't last, stressed and overwhelmed, quit, stressed. I could do that gentleness. Some changes stick, but others don't. Overwhelmed. Yeah, this doesn't feel good to me. Someone wrote, what does slow change even look like? I can't imagine. Yeah, so I see a pattern here, and I hope you guys too, which should make us all feel less alone about why things didn't work out before. And I think that should give you even more allowance to release the guilt around it. Whether or not we put that word to it or not, I think a lot of us feel that guilt because we couldn't do it, because we weren't good enough, and it's just not the truth. So we can drop the stories, we can drop the guilt, and we can start over in a new way. Yep, too much too soon makes me overwhelmed. Patience is what I'm working on. Because I didn't take the time to really reflect, I actually had to get rid of things I loved, so I had regrets. Okay, so I think that we kind of understand where we're going here. So number one, identify your why by asking the 2 questions that I posed for you. Change the pace. And not only the overall length of the change, so if it takes 2 days, 2 months, 2 years, but also the intensity of the steps that you're taking. So instead of these big, huge, unattainable steps, why can't we focus on the tiny steps and really enjoy those and have fun with them and celebrate them? Why don't we celebrate the tiny steps? Because as you've heard me say, I'm sure, big change is always the result of hundreds, if not thousands, of tiny steps. So we have to celebrate them. We must celebrate these tiny steps. So that's the pace. And then the third thing that we have to do to change the way we change is to create our own support. We have to create our own support. We might find that support in real life, right in our own households. Sometimes we might be fighting for that support or crave more support in that area. But there are other ways to make that support happen. Whenever I'm making a change, I look for books surrounding the change that I want to make. Books are my support system in many ways. And then I look online and I look at who I'm following on social media, what articles I'm reading. I get very clear on where my time is going online, and I remove the things or people online that are not feeling supportive, and I add what feels more supportive. So it's two parts. You can't add all the support and then have the things that weigh you down at the same time. Get rid of it. Just get rid of it. It's not personal. It's what you need in that moment. And maybe in 6 months' time, you're going to need something else. So start there. And same with what kind of media you're consuming. Are you consuming media that is moving you forward, helping you make progress? Or are you consuming the kind of media that is taking all your attention, making you scared all the time, and holding you back? Can't you limit that? Or get rid of it altogether? And when it comes especially to news media, we all want to stay informed. But the question I've been asking myself is, am I going to do something differently because I've read this? Or will this doom scrolling make me act in a different way, a different, more positive way? Can I make change based on what I am spending this hour on? And if the answer is no, then it's a no. That's it. If the answer is no, then it is a no. So keep that in mind and just consider it. Consider how you are supporting yourself. And instead of focusing on the people who aren't supporting you or the people who aren't on board, just make your own support system and focus on you and the changes that you're making. So somebody asked me to repeat the 2 questions earlier. So I'm going to say, first I'm going to tell you the 3 things that help us change the way we change. Number 1, knowing what our why is. Number 2, changing the pace, not needing everything to be fast and furious, and taking tiny steps and celebrating those tiny steps. And then support, creating your own support system. And then within that why, if you can't get clear on your why, then ask these 2 questions. What would life look like if you would change the way you change? And how will life be different when you start making space for what matters to you? So this is going to involve identifying what matters to you. And I mean, maybe you love reading books. Maybe you love listening to music. Maybe you like taking walks, but you haven't had time to take a walk in a long time. So just think about that. And you can hear this again if I can manage to save the recording. That's up in the air. Tech is not always my friend, but it is in the first video in the Tiny Step Simplicity videos series, and the next one is coming tomorrow. Now this free series, there's a series of videos that you should be able to take just this information I shared with you today and apply it to your life with nothing further. You have a lot of information right now to change the way you change. If you want more support, more direction, more guidance, more working with me more closely, on Sunday of next week, I'm going to be opening the Simplicity Space, which some of you may be members of right now, but it's a membership program that I offer to talk about the things we're talking about right now through our community, through live calls, both webinars and Zoom meetings, by sharing really amazing, in my opinion, simplicity conversations with friends and people who I really love to learn from. And a few other things, including something I call heart seat calls. And they're like, they're mini coaching calls with me, like 15 minutes. We really get to the heart of the matter. And it's pretty phenomenal how much you can accomplish in a short amount of time. And then lots of other things peppered in there. It's just a great place to connect with other people, just like on this call, who are struggling with similar things, who are making great progress, and really inspiring and supporting each other. Okay, Sharon says, what if I want to change in many areas of my life? Health, money, possessions, where to start? Anywhere. Where do you want to start? Some people like to start at the place where they can make the change the fastest, so they can feel that sense of accomplishment. But if you're going to change all of these things anyway, I say it doesn't matter where you start. I would almost start where you're the most interested right now. Like, what is really speaking to you, and what are you most curious about? And then can you give yourself permission to stay focused on that one area for however long it takes to feel like it's time to bring on something else? Because if you can look at one area, do one thing at a time with these tiny steps, it's really going to make a big difference. Yeah. Yep. Somebody suggested to make a list, which you kind of did here. I would just pick one. For me, I went with what was most stressful first and worked my way from there. But I think that you can do any order that you want. But one thing to be aware of is when you have a lot of changes to make, sometimes it's easier not to make any. It's just like making decisions. Sometimes if there's too many, it's just too much, right? Like if you're looking at a menu of lunch choices, if there's too many, it's overwhelming. I know it seems like a simple decision, but just pick one. Don't get overwhelmed by the amount of changes that you want to make in your life, because each change helps the other change. They're all connected, and they all make the next one a little bit easier. Linda said, what did you change first? So I worked on food first. And what's interesting is all of the changes that you work on, you'll continue to work on, because your lifestyle changes, your health needs change, your living situations change, your work changes. That's life. And so you will work on these things ongoing, which is great. I mean, it's great that we have the opportunity to do this. Whenever I think I have to change, I remind myself that I get to change. I get to make a change. I mean, I feel pretty lucky for that. Pretty lucky for that. Okay, what else do I want to tell you? I'm just going to take a look at my notes here. One thing I wanted to mention is one thing that we do when we're changing within simplicity, when we're simplifying things, when we're decluttering stuff, whether it be physical stuff or calendar stuff or brain stuff, and we make this nice, clear space, and we take a deep breath, and we love how it feels, and then we fill it all back up. Why do we do that? Why do we keep filling up all the spaces? We make space, we fill it up. We make space, we fill it up. What if we stopped filling it up, at least with clutter that we wanted to remove? I think if we were more thoughtful about leaving some blank spaces, even though that feels really uncomfortable, we would be happier. We would answer more questions for ourselves, because it is in that discomfort sometimes that the answers show up. And we'll be more thoughtful about how we add to that space. Maybe we don't want to fill it up. You empty a bookshelf, instead of filling it back up, maybe you don't even need the bookshelf. And I say that kind of metaphorically. Like, you could think about that in any area of your life. Don't fill up the spaces. Clear the space, and then give yourself time to figure out how you want to fill the space, or if you want to fill it at all, or if you need the container anymore. Yeah, I Am Flowing says, please explain, are you referring to clutter, declutter, and then buy more stuff? Sure, that's a great example. But you could apply it to other things too, like your to-do list, your calendar, your, like if you have a cycle of overthinking things. Anybody overthink things? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And we have a chance, we get to be thoughtful about that. Yes. Yeah. Why do I fill in all the space? Yeah, why do we? So that was just kind of a side note. So let's take a couple questions. I know I've missed a few, and it will be way easier for me if you don't mind reposting them, because for me to scroll back, I'm probably going to shut us off, and then you'll be mad, I guess. I don't know. I just don't want to do that. So if you have questions, overthink, overanalyze, and then overwhelm, and solve no problems, right? I have solved more problems just from letting them go than I have thinking them to death, even though I tried really hard. But just letting them is so much better. I guess it's the idea that you're free not to think about some things. And our brains just want to grab everything and think it. How did you start making the changes? I started making changes back in 2006 with food and my relationship with food and what I was eating and what I wanted to eat and what I thought was best for me. And that's turned into so much more than I anticipated. I thought when I started making food changes that I was trying to reduce inflammation in my body because of MS. And over the years, it's progressed into eating to make myself feel really great, and then exploring diet culture, which is just blown my mind wide open, and thinking about how I used to treat my body and myself with dieting, and believing that I had to weigh a certain amount. It just has snowballed and snowballed and snowballed, which is really cool. And that's what all of these things do, because as you simplify, you have more room to consider what's real, what's true, what matters to you, what you're willing to let go of. Have you initially had any regret over letting sentimental items go, I think is what the question is. And the answer is no, I haven't. Getting rid of my books has been the hardest, brings me joy, but does take up room. But what really brings you joy? I had to ask this question too, because I have had a ton of books, but what brought me joy was reading. Reading brought me joy. So now I read more than ever, but I have hardly any books. And that's because I pass them on when I'm finished. Okay. All right. If I didn't get your question, feel free to pop on a question. And for a moment, I'm just going to tell you a little bit, and I'll be telling you more, especially next week. I'm going to do a live call later today on Facebook Live, and I'll post the timing for that. And then on Saturday, I'm going to do an Instagram live. So as you mull this over during the week, you can come back and ask me questions, and another Facebook live. And then on Sunday night, I'm going to do a webinar. So if that's easier for you or you're curious, you can attend that as well. I really want to get these concepts and ideas out to you so that you can put them into action in your own life. And then on Sunday, after we do the webinar, we'll open the membership for Simplicity Space for 4 days. It's going to close on Thursday. So it'll be open Sunday night through Thursday night. Is that 5 days or 4 days? You can decide. But that'll be the time where you can join the membership if you like or not. Okay. How do you feel about ebooks? It's still kind of digital clutter. Only if you're not enjoying them and reading them and putting them into your life. If you're just buying them and not reading them, then yes, they're digital clutter. Okay. Patrice Sketches says, can we see a tour of your new home once you're ready to show it? I haven't decided yet. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'll definitely show you parts of it, but I don't know if I'll do a full-on home tour. That feels really very intimate, and I've only been here a week, so my mind could totally change about this. But for right now, probably not. But I will show you little things about my house, like a plant or myself in it, like right now, or something, I don't know, something that I think will be worthwhile to share and that I feel good about sharing when it's time to share. But I appreciate your interest. What's your emergency kit in stressful times? Getting still, breathing, and then moving. So the stillness and the movement both have to happen. I need to walk it out. That helps me a lot. Talking to people I love, that's part of it. It's always different. It depends on what the stress is. But aside from that, like that act in the time of the emergency, what's more important to me is building resilience when it's not an emergency, when it's not stressful, and having consistent practices every single day so that when I do feel really stressed out, I can tap into those practices. Linda says, what is the cost of the Simplicity Space? It is $19.99 a month, or there's an annual option, but I think you get 2 months free with the annual option. And we've been doing this now since August, so I'd love that I have a lot of like real-time feedback and have made such good connections with the members in the community to see, like I feel now even more confident talking about it and offering it and inviting you to join, because it's just been better than I could have ever imagined. Okay. Let's see. How many plants do you have? Right now I only have 2 plants. So I have, which is actually 2 more than I had last year. I did have some succulents that didn't really do well in the move. And I tried to do some like reviving and it didn't work out. But I have 2 plants. I have a rhododendron and a ZZ plant. But I want this home to be, that's probably where all the color is going to come from, is from plants. So there will be more. Will you share about your decision to shift from renting to owning? Of course, I'm happy to. I would say first and foremost that were it not for the events of 2020, that I probably wouldn't be in this house right now. We wouldn't have bought a house, or I think it's very unlikely. It wasn't on our radar. We weren't planning it, which is really how a lot of the best things happen. But we were living in an apartment on the 5th floor, and between the pandemic and the earthquakes we had in Salt Lake City and a pretty bad windstorm, we decided that we wanted to be on the ground. And so we started looking at house rentals and townhouses and other like ground level situations. But number one, anything we found that we enjoyed was very, very expensive. And there was enough that we wanted to customize, plus the expense, that we started to look into buying. And that was more appealing to us. And again, it wouldn't have been, I don't think, were it not for the last year. But it really made sense to us this time. And yeah, that's kind of how we made that decision. And I'll tell you more about that as I am thinking it out, because I want to talk about, how we bought the house and things that are important to consider. I've never been a big, like, you should rent or you should buy. I've really enjoyed renting. I enjoyed renting over my first homeowner experience. And I'm hoping that I'll enjoy owning over my last rental experience. But I think there's pros and cons to both. And there isn't a winner. There isn't this is the best way. Because as you know, I don't know what's best for you. Only you know that. And it depends on your lifestyle and where you live and where you want to be and all of those things. Okay. Chloe just started Project 333 with her mom, and it changed my perspective so much, she says. I'm so glad. I think it's so fun that you're doing it with your mom. Okay, just scrolling. Look, I'm scrolling and I didn't hang up on you. This is amazing. What did you miss during this pandemic? Well, I miss my family for sure. My parents and my sister and brother-in-law and niece and nephew all live overseas. So I haven't been able to see them at all. I think that's first and foremost. I missed doing the full Project 333 book tour. I miss traveling. Of course, I miss a lot of things during this pandemic. And I've been grateful for a lot of things during this pandemic. So this is something we've been talking about in the Simplicity Space community quite a bit, and that I've been pondering is really focusing on that and. So it doesn't have to be an or a but. We can enjoy things and feel stressed. We can miss things and feel grateful. And that really helps. I would say that's for sure in my stressful times emergency kit as well. The power of and. Patrice, I'm happy to do this. Thank you for showing up. I'm going to let you guys go into your day or evening, and I'm really grateful that you showed up today. I hope we connect again on a future call, or that you email me or send me a message if you have a question about something, and perhaps we work together in the Simplicity Space. But either way, I want to wish you the best, and I really commend you for being thoughtful about new ideas and perhaps changing the way you change. So